I'm gearing up for a major freezer meal prep day today, and I can't wait to take you along with me. This is going to be my freezer prep for when I am newly postpartum. I'm expecting baby number 2 here pretty soon, near the end of the year, and I have a lot of recipes that I want to try this time. I did the same thing with our first baby, so if you want even more recipe ideas, you can watch that video as well. I will link it in the cards as well as in the description box below. I have breakfast recipes, I have quite a few dinner or lunch options, as well as a dessert. So let's get right into the cooking. First up, we're gonna be making some bacon Gruyere egg bites. These are gonna be really similar to the Starbucks egg bites, but you don't need a sous vide to make them. I'm gonna show you how to make them in the oven. And I've pulled out all of my ingredients here. I am gonna start by cracking all of the eggs into a bowl, and I'm linking all of the recipes in the description box below if you are interested in grabbing the recipe and prefer to print it off yourself. So for this one, just because of the amount of cheese that I had, I decided to do 1.5 of the recipes. And if you are making freezer meals, it is nice a lot of times to double it, make 2 of something. So even if you're making a casserole, you can make 2 casseroles. Just put in the effort at one time and save yourself a little bit more in the future. So there are going to be 12 eggs here. Just drop to show. And then I'm also gonna add in 1.5 cups of sour cream and get that all mixed together.
Say that you don't need me. You say let's take things slowly. I hope you realize you're playing with fire. I know what heartbreak feels like. I know I've shed some teardrops. I've been here before.
That is all combined. I am going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt, as well as 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And then I pre-shredded my Gruyere cheese. You might be able to find it in the grocery store already shredded, but you will need shredded Gruyere cheese. And I'm gonna add 1/2 of the amount that I have here. And I have 12 ounces, so I'm gonna add in 6 of the ounces there. And then I need to chop my bacon as well because I'm gonna add in the bacon.
If we don't stop, if we don't go, I'll be left alone hanging out when you go. Sitting by myself, going crazy like all the time. If we don't stop.
Okay, so at this point I have it all together, and I should have mentioned that that was a full package of bacon that I did. I'm gonna add some silicone liners to my muffin tin. It does say in the recipe that ideally you would just have a silicone muffin tray or a silicone baking sheet of some sort that you could use. I don't have that, so we're improvising with silicone. You could also just use your regular muffin tin, and you could spray it down and spray it down pretty well because eggs do tend to stick. I'm not going to spray it because I use the silicone, but I am adding in a bath of hot water here. Let's see, I'm gonna try and add even more. It should get up a good way on the muffin tin, so I'm gonna add a little bit more and then start filling the egg cups up and add a little bit of cheese on top. And you are going to stick it in the oven for about 30 minutes or so. And the oven has been preheated already to 350. So I'm gonna get all that stuff done, pop it in the oven.
I've been left alone hanging out when you go. And I hope you realize playing with the fire. Saying words ain't easy. I know you can't talk to me, but I hope you realize you're playing with fire. You were my one and only until you left
I've gotten the egg cups cooled, and I did do a second half batch because remember I did 1.5 of the recipe, and I just put it straight in the muffin tin without any silicone cups, and I will say it was a lot harder to get them out. So if you have silicone, definitely go for that. So I am going to just label a freezer bag here. I'm adding the date, which is always very important. I am telling you, when you do freezer meals, even if it's clear and see-through, you're gonna wanna write exactly what things are. There can be freezer burn, or if you wait a while and something gets stuck at the back of your freezer, you might forget what it is. So label with what it is. If there are further cooking instructions, which I'll have examples of some recipes with further cooking instructions a little bit later, you want to add that in. And of course the date. Most freezer meals, I would say, are good for about 3 months in the freezer, but a lot of the recipes that I have will recommend different things because most of these I found are specific freezer friendly recipes. I believe some of them say 2 months or so, but just keep in mind, the longer you have it in the freezer, the less fresh it's going to be, and the higher chance that you're going to have some freezer burn to deal with.
You have done it now, left me on the ground. This is it, I won't come back.
That's it. They are all done. I'm going to stick them in the freezer. And I guess I should mention that you can reheat these at 50% power for like 3 to 5 minutes. You could just do full power if you prefer at a minute or so, and just figure out what works best for you in your microwave to reheat them. But I would for sure stick them in the microwave to reheat. We're doing a little bit more of an indulgent breakfast, and I'm making a French toast casserole. So I have a loaf of brioche bread. I'm gonna try and get out here. But the recipe I'm using says you can also do challah or French bread if you have that as well. Okay, now we got that out. And I'm gonna cut it into 1-inch pieces. And we need to grease up our little foil pan here. And then I am going to spread that around. Now that we have all of that in there, I am going to start getting the egg mixture going. So we have 8 eggs that I'm cracking into a bowl here. And then I am going to add in 1/2 cup of cream, 2 cups of milk, a tablespoon of vanilla extract, and 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Whisk it all together and then pour it on top of my bread that I have in my pan here.
You're playing with the fire. If we don't stop.
The next step is to make the crumble that's going to go on top. So for that, it is a 1/2 cup of flour, as well as a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, which is pretty much about all I have left of this brown sugar here. And then I am also going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of cinnamon. And what I'm gonna do, oh, one more thing. I'm adding in 1/2 cup of butter that I am going to cut into small pieces. So what I'm going to do is put it into a small Ziploc bag. You don't want to sprinkle it on top before you freeze it. And you can do this two ways. You can freeze after you've finished baking, and that's kind of the theme of a lot of these types of freezer meals and recipes, is sometimes you can freeze them before you've baked them or before you've cooked them, and other times it's better to freeze it after, or maybe just more convenient for you to freeze it after and simply do a reheat. Totally up to you, but I am going to freeze this before it's been baked. And so I want to have the topping separated, just as I would if I was going to do the recipe normally. Toss in my butter here, and you are going to saran wrap the whole foil container. Then I'm going to place my Ziploc there, and then I am going to put the foil on top of it, and that's what I'm going to label with the cooking instructions, which is to bake at 350 for 45 to 50 minutes. Again, it's one of those dishes that you're going to want to take out of the freezer and let thaw overnight in the refrigerator, and this is going to be so delicious, especially because I'm having a baby in the winter time, kind of near Christmas, depending on what's going on and when the baby shows up. Maybe we could have this for a cozy family morning in when we want to have a little bit more of an indulgent breakfast and just hang out in our PJs all morning, which I feel like happens a lot when you're postpartum. So I am going to finish this up and get it all wrapped up and write those instructions.
And I hope you realize, play with the fire. Play with the
I'm so excited for this recipe. It is extremely easy, and apparently it's a viral pasta bake that I had never heard of before. Even though it's a very easy recipe, I still am hoping that it will be great to do right now and save me the time of meal planning, going to get the groceries, doing dishes even, because I'm going to be putting it in a foil baking dish. So even if you have easy meals, prepping them as freezer meals in advance will probably save you time. So I'm going to chop up a white onion and brown that with a pound of ground beef while I have a pot of water boiling, and then I'll show you the next steps. But I'm telling you, this one is so beyond easy. There basically isn't even a recipe for it. So I have you all set up on the cooktop here. I'm adding in the ground beef, but I just wanted to mention that veggie chopper is something new that I just got. I have no idea how I went so long without having this. I mean, that was so beyond simple. And especially with onions, I really, really like having it because I don't have to sit there chopping onions and having my eyes water. So if you don't have one of these, I will also link that in the description box below if you're interested. It does go on sale often, and I was able to get it on sale, so maybe keep an eye out. There's a few different versions, and then I'm going to use this fun dandy tool to break apart my ground beef and really move it around and get that all browned.
We're running out of light. Time is changing day to night.
Okay, so I got the meat all browned up, and I just drained out some of the grease there. Then I'm gonna add in a jar of marinara sauce, mix that up, let it simmer, and it sounds like my water is boiling, so I am going to add in 1 pound of pasta and let that cook in my boiling water.
Lights are fading out, and we're dancing in the park. Nothing's wrong with
The pasta is done cooking, so I am going to take it off the stovetop here and drain it out. I have this fancy little thing that has a strainer built into it. And then I am going to add in a jar of Alfredo sauce. You could home make Alfredo sauce if you want. But we have a lot of meals to cook today, so I'm not necessarily interested in that right now. But I have my pasta drained, so I'm gonna add it back into the bowl there, and then we will add in the Alfredo sauce.
'cause you look better in the dark. Oh, counting days I made it through without someone like you. We're running out of light. Time is changing day to night.
I let the pasta cool for just a while. You probably saw that I added in the Alfredo sauce to the pasta. That's the first layer that you throw in. Then on top of that, you're going to put your meat and pasta sauce mixture, but do not combine the two of them. You're supposed to keep them separated. And then I'm gonna top it with some mozzarella cheese now that it's cooled off, and put foil on top, write the instructions. And the instructions are to thaw overnight in the refrigerator, bake at 350 degrees for 45 minutes, broil a little bit if you want at the end. That will help make the cheese nice and crisp and bubbly. And that's it. So I'm gonna finish it off.
And you keep asking why I'm out of control. Oh, my body and my soul don't wanna be whole. For you, I'm just unknown, and you're not that someone who will find my heart.
Next up, I'm gonna be making a green chili chicken enchilada casserole almost. So I'm gonna be using my veggie chopper again here. And one of the things that I'm gonna do for this one is double the recipe, because I went ahead and already made some shredded chicken. You could use rotisserie chicken for this, or you could make your own shredded chicken. And I just made a lot of it, so we are gonna double it. And if I don't have enough of this green chili enchilada sauce, which is what the recipe calls for, I also have some red, so we'll see what happens. I might make one red and one green. I have a larger pan back there. It's more like a pot that is heating up with a little bit of olive oil that I'm gonna add my 2 onions to, as well as my bell peppers. You should have 4 if you're doubling it, but I only have 3. So I'm hoping that it still turns out okay with only 3.
Cause I will find the way on my own. Now life is happening and I don't wanna miss a thing. Letting go is not a sin.
Okay, so that is all softened. I am adding in my shredded chicken. You should have like 3 heaping cups if you are going to double it. And then I'm gonna add in some spices. I'm doing a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of pepper, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, and a teaspoon and a half of garlic powder. Gonna mix that up, and then we will set that aside. And there's going to be a Greek yogurt mixture that we're gonna add in here in just a second. That's what we will do next. Chicken mixture is all done, so we are going to make the yogurt mixture that I talked about, which I'm just still gonna list all of the doubling of the recipe. It's going to be 2 cups of cheese. I just have cheddar jack here, but you could do regular cheddar, you could do Monterey Jack, you could do pepper jack if you wanted it spicy. I don't think it really needs to be super specific. And then I am going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt, followed by 4 cans of diced green chilies. And then I'm gonna add in 3 cups of Greek yogurt. And you do want to try and let your chicken mixture cool just a little bit before you add this Greek yogurt mixture into it, just so the Greek yogurt doesn't start to curdle. But once I get this done, I am going to combine those, mix it up, and we'll check back for the tortilla rolling portion.
We're running out of light. Time is changing day to night. And you keep asking why. I'm out of control. My body.
Now we're on to the rolling portion. So I am just going to take my tortillas one at a time here. They are 8-inch tortillas. And I am gonna add, the recipe says you should get about a half a cup. So I grabbed a half a cup measuring cup and I'm gonna add that to my tortillas and roll them up and put them into my foil baking dish here and get a little bit of an assembly line going, especially since I'm doubling this. I feel like this is gonna take just a little moment. So we will go one by one, lay them seam side down so they stay closed during the baking process. And then we're gonna bake them in the oven with foil on top for 30 minutes at 350 degrees.
So don't wanna be whole. For you, I'm just unknown. And you're not that someone who will find my heart and bring peace to my mind. So move on. Oh, 'cause I will find the way on my own.
That ended up being a lot of filling. I still have leftover filling and I filled up my 2 trays already. So I honestly might have this for dinner tonight and just not use tortillas and just have that. So I am going to add, it says 1.5 cups to 2 cups per casserole here of the enchilada sauce, and you're just gonna pour it over top. It calls for green again, but I only have enough green for one of them, and then the other one I'm gonna do red enchilada sauce. That looks pretty good. Get everything all covered, and then I'm gonna add my foil on top and again bake for 30 minutes at 350.
But I know what I'm running from.
I'm just grabbing them both out of the oven. It's been 30 minutes. And the last step is going to be topping them with about a cup more cheese on top. And then we're gonna bake them uncovered for 5 minutes. And then after that, you're just gonna let them cool and we will put the foil back on top so we can get them ready for the freezer.
You keep saying fine, but I'm not in line. No, no, not this time. 'Cause I will find the way on my own.
Okay, so I have the foil that I used from before. I'm gonna put that back on the tops of these and put my baking instructions on them. I am going to write that I'm going to cook them straight from frozen. 2 options with this as well. You can thaw them overnight, but I am gonna write the instructions for baking straight from frozen, which is 350 degrees for 45 minutes in the oven with the foil on top. So I'm gonna specify that. The only thing about this one is the fact that you are supposed to sprinkle some toppings on, fresh toppings, that would be really good, but also that means I probably have to go to the grocery store postpartum. So I'm gonna write some of the potential toppings that you can add on, like diced avocado, red onion, cilantro would be great. You could also add fresh tomatoes or a little dollop of sour cream or something like that if you wanted, or Greek yogurt. So I'm going to put these on and label them and get them in the freezer.
'Cause I control my body and my soul. Don't wanna be whole.
For this next meal, we're making an Olive Garden inspired pasta soup. I have my water boiling for the pasta, and then I am just cutting some more ground beef here. So I'm gonna add that to my large pot, get that browned with some salt and pepper.
For you, I'm just unknown, and you're not that.
Okay, so the beef is all browned. I am going to grab it off the stovetop here and transfer it to a plate.
Who will find my heart and bring peace to my mind to move on? Oh, 'cause I will.
Then I just added a couple tablespoons of oil. I'm adding in 2 stalks of chopped celery, 2 cups of shredded carrots. I'm gonna stir that for just a moment, and then I'm going to add in 4 cloves of minced garlic, followed by 1 tablespoon of tomato paste after that garlic has also had a minute to cook. So we do our carrots and celery for a little bit, then add in the garlic, let that cook for just a second, and then add in the tomato paste. and we will do more in just a minute. All of that is combined and cooked now, so I'm going to start adding the bulk of the ingredients. We're going to add our beef back into the pot here. And then there's quite a few canned things that we're adding in, so I'm going to add in, I have a can of kidney beans, a can of cannellini beans. I also have a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. I should have a can of diced tomatoes, but I have these diced tomatoes and green chilies. That's all I have right now, so we're adding that in, and it should, again, be 15 ounces, but mine's only 10. I am going to add in a couple of teaspoons of Italian seasoning, just eyeballing it. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, also eyeballing that. And then I'm going to add in 2 cups of chicken broth as well as 2 cups of water. Give that all a really nice stir and then let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Pasta is drained and the soup has now simmered for 15 minutes. So I'm going to add the pasta into the soup and mix it all together. And then to store soup, my favorite thing to use is kind of a no-brainer, super cubes. I've shared these before for freezer meals, and if you watch my other postpartum freezer meal video from last time I was pregnant, I use them for a lot of other meals. Some meals where I put like a layer of rice at the bottom and then did a buttered chicken on top, and you can make individually portioned things. You can make individually portioned lasagnas. That would be really great. I've done that before, but soup is in the name, so super cubes are great for freezing soup, and that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use, I think this is the 2-cup tray. Yeah, the 2-cup tray, the larger one, and scoop my soup into there. Let it cool before I put it into the freezer. You can leave them in here in the freezer, or you can take them out and put them into a gallon Ziploc. A gallon Ziploc will fit 4 of these just perfectly, and this recipe is done.
You only call me on the weekends when you're out and about. Chasing highs, you need me. He brings me flowers on a Tuesday. He gives me good love and something that I never.
Last but not least, we're going to make a sweet treat dessert, and this is going to be a freezer-friendly dessert. This is something I've made before, and Jim thought it was one of the best things I've ever made dessert-wise, and it's not too difficult to make. I'm adding in 2 cans of coconut milk. I am going to double this recipe. And it's like an ice cream Snickers bar, but a vegan version. You can make it vegan. Depends on what ingredients you add. It does have an option to add protein powder, which I'm not gonna do today. After you've added in your 2 cans of coconut milk, then I'm gonna add in 3/4 of a teaspoon of cashew butter. 1, 2, 3. And at this point you can add in 1/2 cup of protein powder if you want to. If you don't add in 1/2 cup of protein powder, you should add a little bit extra nut butter. So that's what I'm gonna do. And then I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of maple syrup here.
I know what I need, ain't gonna lie. I know what I want, speaking my mind now. The queen is a king.
And then I just did a pinch of salt and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I am going to go blend this up, and I will be right back. After that, you can use some candy molds, silicone molds, ice cube trays, whatever you have on hand. My absolute favorite are super cubes, and their 2 tablespoon size is perfect for this recipe. It's what I've used in the past, but I only have 1 clean right now, so I've grabbed a few other things. The reason I like this is because it's so sturdy, so when I hold it from one end, you'll see it doesn't flop over, whereas when I hold this, it falls over, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to transport to the freezer, which actually makes me think maybe I should grab a cookie sheet to put this on so it doesn't fall all over the place. There, that will make it easier. So I'm going to just start by filling these up, and then we are going to freeze them in the freezer for an hour or 2, or until they start to feel firm. So I've taken the ice cream out of the freezer now. It is firm enough, and we're gonna make the caramel layer. I just heated up 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in the microwave. Got that all melted. Then into this bowl, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of maple syrup, as well as a cup of peanut butter and about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then mix it up, and we're going to do just a thin layer on top of all of those little ice cream bars that we have created. Then you're gonna stick it back in the freezer for, I would say, 30 minutes, an hour maybe even. Let it firm up as much as you have time for, as much as you can. And then we are going to get a chocolate shell going, and we're gonna dip the whole thing in chocolate, or just dip a little bit in chocolate after it is nice and firm and frozen. So now everything's had a nice amount of time to freeze. I can pop it out of my little trays here. I'm going to cover it in some chocolate and sprinkle with coarse sea salt and pop it back into the freezer to let it finish freezing. That is it for today's video. Again, if you haven't seen my video from when I was pregnant with our first baby and you want some more freezer meal ideas, make sure to head over there. I also have a separate channel, Sophisticated Motherhood, for all motherhood content. And if you are preparing postpartum freezer meals, I filmed a video over there that is going to be all focused on lactation freezer meals, a couple snacks and breakfast ideas that will help boost milk supply. So if that's of interest to you, head over to my other channel as well. But until next time, I will see you all later.